Welcome, everybody, for a special edition of Breakaway Rail Talk. This is a reciprocal edition. I had the opportunity to be on Billy Koch and Michelle Yu's podcast last week, and the deal was that we had so much fun that we decided to spill over and have 2.0 podcast interview here. So I'm pleased to introduce to my new friends, Billy Koch and Michelle Yu. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Hey, this is where Patty will put in applause. So that
Good. Yeah.
It'll sound like there's cheering and everything like that.
Yeah.
It all goes back to your days of playing Northwestern baseball, right, Billy?
Right. Do we have like introduction music, like walk-up music?
We do, as a matter of fact. But the thing, all right, I got to say, I'm already a little teensy bit disappointed already, because last time when I was on your show, Michelle went on and on about how, Billy, you and I look like brothers because we both had such great facial hair and everything like that. And I specifically shaved to look more like Michelle today. So that way she wouldn't 3 years. It took me 3 years to grow that goatee and facial hair. But for you, Michelle, I shaved. And
I like it.
Not a piece.
I like it.
It's funny because I actually noticed it and I was like, this doesn't look like the same guy. I thought maybe it was like your brother or something doing the pod today.
This is not like to be offensive. You look like 15 years younger. So you and Billy are like father-son now.
I know.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle.
I know. That's like, you can always shave. I mean, we can have this podcast, sponsored by Gillette.
Yeah, my whole shaving thing is not a look. My whole shaving thing is just complete laziness. That's
I get it.
The entire thing is laziness.
I get it. Yeah. I had a shaving malfunction, which is why I had to go with the full erasure at that point. I got a little too close to the electric razor.
Were you doing this and then you sneezed and like lost a whole sideburn?
Yeah, basically, Oh, here we go. Hey, Spence, how are you?
Spencer's back. Yeah, this happens all the time. John, just get used to that.
It's all
That's his axe throwing toy. He wants to throw axes right now.
Oh, that's good. Don't keep him out of the horse business. That's the most important thing. So guys, I had so much fun, seriously, on your show. We talked about horse names. We talked about what's going on with the industry that I wanted to have you back on our show, just so I can actually ask you some of these great questions that you spun towards me and hear more about what you guys see in the going on in the industry, especially because you're primarily on the West Coast and we're primarily an East Coast show. So we constantly disregard the West Coast racing. And I know that it's prominent and it's important. And aside from the fact that like every other trainer out in California gets a positive test for something.
Easy.
Go into that. One out of every three. Okay.
Every other trainer?
Easy. I did want to start with asking you about what's going on in California racing and take your temperature about where you think it's going to be going in the next 3 to 5 years, because there's a lot of potential change going on.
Obviously, for anybody who's watching especially Southern California and even the North now, obviously they were supposed to get shut down. Now they're back. We're in some trouble. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The question is how much trouble. There's threats. You saw the threatening letter from Craig Fravel from Santa Anita and the Stronach Group about keeping Santa Anita open. If the North actually gets dates, we're closing up and being sold. All that blah 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 blah. We don't know what's true. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, for California to survive, we need some alternate form of revenue, and that's the truth, because the purse levels continue to drop, and you look at Kentucky, where I'm sitting right now, and there's an allowance race on that we just entered for $110,000. That same race at Santa Anita is, I think, in the 50s. Right. Something has to change, and unfortunately, we don't have historical horse racing. We do not have sports betting. We are up against the Indians. It makes it very, very difficult for us to get that. And I don't know where that's going to come from, John. What I will say on the positive side is there are a lot of people like myself and Michelle Yu that believe in California racing. We're very passionate about it. It is our home. We are not going to just let it go. So I think, to give you a great prediction for the next 3 to 5 years, I honestly have no idea. I can tell you there'll be a lot of people that are going to work really hard to get some type of alternate revenue in there for the purses to be more competitive, and where that's going to come from, I wish I knew. How about that?
That's a great answer. It's a great answer.
I mean, I'll pretty much ditto everything that Billy had to say. I will add one bit of maybe some clarity, talking about the letter from First. I think what a lot of people don't realize is when they're only talking about like, are we canceling or not canceling Northern California racing? It isn't as simple as, hey, we don't like the North. Spencer, stop.
Yeah, it has nothing. You're right.
The big like behind the scenes of that is that money wagered on the North, even if it goes to the South. So if you live in San Francisco and you're betting $1 million a day on Santa Anita, that money, your takeout money, is not going to Santa Anita. It's going to to fund the North, right? So First and Belinda have expressed multiple times over the last several years that there needs to be some kind of restructuring for that, where it's a little bit more fair. You know, if there's a billionaire in Silicon Valley that's betting hand over fist to Santa Anita and Santa Anita sees none of that revenue, that's really harmful for Santa Anita, especially with the purses the way they are, and we are overpaid in purses. So I think that is a big component of this whole thing, that 95% of people looking just think First hates horse racing, and that's not the case at all. So I think that they need to realize that, you know, what they want is it to survive, and all these people they're cheering on like the North getting days. Does the North understand that if all this is a trickle down effect, and if the North gets days that they can't support right now, and then nothing changes in the allotment of the takeout, and then something happens in Santa Anita, does the North understand that they are going away also? Like the North and Del Mar are not a circuit.
Right. No. Right. Yeah, great points, Michelle. You're right. And listen, I know Belinda very well. I mean, I've been to Preakness. It's one of the greatest shows of the year. She obviously
I'm going to Preakness again this year. We get to have our dinner.
Nice. Maybe we'll invite John. John could probably pay for it. You know, we always need sponsors.
You need sponsors, absolutely.
No, but then you look at Preakness. You look at what happened at Gulfstream with the Pegasus. You look at the new California event that's happening a month before Breeders' Cup. So obviously, you look at the money they spent on the synthetic track at Santa Anita. So they're making investments. The thing is, we just need a little help.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. They're making investments, and they're trying new things. Like even we took advantage of the fact that, you know, you had a Breeders' Cup out there, and we sent 4 of our other horses out there to race that week, because they were basically giving us a travel stipend and additional purse money, which I think, you know, people took advantage of. But why is it so hard to get horses into California, even when they had like a dedicated sale? You know, to have horses go out there. And I know a lot of the consigners in Florida were like, it's too much of a hassle. But the money, like the populace is there. The money is there. People will spend money on horses and racing. So there's a disconnect somewhere.
Well, it's hard to get to California. It's not a direct flight almost from anywhere, especially with the, you know, shutdown of a lot of the airlines, and you're just FedExing your horses now. If you have to van instead, which a lot of us opt to van because we're talking about a huge price discrepancy, it's a long van ride. I mean, it's not that bad for you. You know, you're going to go to Kentucky to New York, and you might be on the van 12 hours, but to go from here to there, you're talking 3 days. So it's really cost prohibitive if you're going to fly, and it's not exactly cheap to van, and the haul is really stressful on those horses. So if you're thinking, I'm going to come in for Breeders' Cup, well, you know, unless you're Chip Woolley, you're probably not vanning from Florida to come over, especially if you're trying to bring an entire consignment of 2-year-olds. You're not going to fly all those out there. So now you're sticking a bunch of 2-year-olds on a van. How do you think they're going to look when they get out here a week before the sales and they're all sucked up from 3 days on the ship? It's not easy. And I think that because California was such in the forefront as well of our veterinary regulations and everything, we are still one of the strictest jurisdictions out there. A lot of people are hesitant to come out because they don't want to come out, and then, you know, they've been saying, oh, my horse is great, he's fine, he's hunky-dory. And then we're like, oh, excuse me, that horse is not 100%. And, you know, in order just to work here, you've got to pass 3 vet checks. So like, there's no hiding something out here. And it is unfortunate in a way, because not everybody is always 100%. I know when I get out of bed in the morning, I look like crap. Right. Like, I mean, I bent over and
stop it.
I walk. You should see me in the morning. I walk and I'm like, oh boy. So I don't, you know, it's hard to expect an athlete to look 100% every single time you pull him out of his stall and not even give him an opportunity to stretch or warm up. So I do feel like that's harmful, but also a lot of people don't want to deal with it, you know? We've
Yeah,
got owners that are from Kentucky, and they come out here and they're like, it's hard to have a horse out here.
You're talking about two different things. One, the sales that you mentioned, and it was expense. It was that they'd bring them out here. And unlike other places, there's nowhere else to go. Once they're out here,
right,
they want to leave them out there, right? So,
right.
You're looking, if you're R&A horses, you end up just leaving them there. You don't get the money that you want, and it's expensive to come out there. As far as racing out here, I do think, I said this to someone the other day, and our new commissioner, Mike Rapoli, actually said something the other day about California, that we need to help California, whether that's subsidized purses or, I know he has sent some horses out there personally, but it would be nice for some of these very large stables, whether it's Asmussen, Pletcher, Cox, Brown. Right. There's no reason. I mean, there is a reason. I'll tell you some of the reason, but there's no reason they couldn't have a set of horses, maybe 20, 30 horses out in California. They have enough horses. The problem is, and I remember this so well, and I've said this before, Michelle, you've heard me say this before. I was at a Barrett sale years ago with Todd Pletcher. I just happened to be at the bar with him. Todd Pletcher's never had a horse from us. He's always been very nice to us, though. He's always, very friendly. And I said to him, Todd, why don't you have a big stable? This is years ago. I mean, Barrett sale. Okay. I said, you have a huge stable. Why not send some horses out here? He said, Billy, if I send my B stock out there, I'm going to get my ass kicked, and I don't want to get my ass kicked. Right. So maybe there's a way. I don't know what that is, but there, we don't just want the B stock. Obviously, you have to send some A horses, but there's horses that fit. We have levels, and we just need to help fill races. I can tell you, John, that my biggest frustration right now isn't purse levels. Mm-hmm. This is me personally.
Right.
It's getting the races to go that you're pointing your horse to, because you want to run.
For example, I've had a Calbred maiden special weight that could go dirt or turf sprinting. Race hasn't gone. He literally hasn't run in like 2.5 months. We've entered it every time. It's gotten up to like 5 in it. They didn't use it with 5. And then they pulled 3 of the horses to fill the maiden Calbred 50. And so now we're just stuck.
Yeah. And then you're not stuck. You're not stuck. But what happens is you don't get the race to run. Your trainer has a pattern, right? Your trainer is pointing to a race that's in a condition book. And when that race doesn't go, all of a sudden now it goes a week later. Okay, you can still get your horse there. It goes a week later. Okay. But now all of a sudden your horse hasn't run for 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks or 4 weeks, or whatever it is. And now you're kind of almost, now he kind of needs the race. Now you wait for the next one, and it's another 6 to 8 weeks. You have no rhythm. And that's one of my big issues. And I'm not putting blame on, the Racing Secretary of Santa Anita. I think Jason Egan is a very good man who is working really hard and doing the best he can. And it probably not a great idea, not an ideal situation with a lack of horses that we have out there. It's frustrating.
No, it's got to be, and it makes his job harder. And people say, well, maybe not him, but maybe the racing secretary should do what they used to do, years ago, and actually go out to the barns and interview the trainers and find out, what the stock is, and that should be the.
I think they do.
I think they do. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think they do.
When was the last time you saw Jason walking around the barn? He goes to Clocker's Corner.
I know. I
have complained to him multiple times and said, you should divvy up every trainer on the backside to someone in the race office, and the race office continuously checks in on them. Like, how come you haven't run Gray Hat? Gray Hat needs a race. What's the race Gray Hat needs? But they can't pressure people into running.
I'm sure Ryan turns in a list every month or anytime the book's out, doesn't he? Why not? No. But that's on you. I turn in a list every 2 weeks to Jason saying,
Ryan is on the phone with Jason like every single day. Like, I need this race. What's the likelihood of this race going? Like, I mean, we talk to Jason all the time, but we've never been asked to turn in a complete list of our horses with what conditions they fit.
Why do you have to be asked? I would just do it. I do it. I don't. No one asked me. I just put it.
I wish everyone we do at the beginning when we get stall apps, but it'd be nice if everyone did it, because maybe we could have bigger.
Right. But I think
that's my point. Do it. No one. You don't have to. No one get. You don't have to have an invitation.
Right.
Well, maybe Little Red Feather turning in their wish list of races has a lot more credence than Ryan Hansen turning in his wish list of races.
Horses are horses.
Racing offices need races to go, and they need them to go with the most number of horses possible. So I mean, Michelle, you guys ran a couple of horses last week. You know,
it was the worst day of, like, it was the worst weekend of racing we've ever had in our whole lives. Like,
me too.
No, we ran 8 last place finishes.
Right.
Okay, that's worse.
Every single horse. I mean, it's never happened.
That sounds like my Saratoga weekend.
If we had bet that every horse would run last, like, no one would have taken that bet. Like, it was every single horse. It was wild. I literally almost left work. I was so upset.
Yeah.
Michelle, we ran 8 horses in SoCal and had 1 second place finish.
Yeah, but you didn't run 8 lasts.
No, we did not run 8 lasts.